So it's been a while since I've done one of these videos where I talk about a new manga, kind of my impressions on it, my thoughts on the first few chapters, and ultimately whether or not I think it could potentially be a big hit at some given point. And I really enjoy doing these because while some of them pan out, like Seven Deadly Sins ultimately went on to become even more popular and more successful. The anime is huge right now. Some of them ultimately don't pan out, like Hungry Joker or Iron Knight. It just really depends on if the people in Japan care about the series or, you know, what is the whole consensus on it, the popularity and whatnot. But popularity, remember, never equates to quality. So just because it may become something in the future humongous doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be amazing. And today I'm going to be talking about the manga Boku no Hero Academia, also known as My Hero Academia or My Hero Academy. This is by the same mangaka that did Barrage, aka Sensei no Bulge. A lot of people for a while now have been telling me you need to check this out. You need to check out Boku no Hero. It's dope, but I've actually been keeping my eye on this manga for a bit now because I was a fan of the original series Sensei no Bulge, his original work prior to this one. Unfortunately, this was another victim of getting the axe pretty much premature, and I was kind of like, alright, well, maybe he'll get another work in the future. And if you can tell from this picture, from the cover, the main character from this series looks almost identical to the main character of Boku no Hero Academia. And now that there's 9 chapters out, I decided finally everyone been hitting me up, and I've got my interest in it. Let's talk about it. For starters, definitely something that I gotta say that I noticed a lot of is the mangaka is very inspired by Naruto. I mean, to put it into perspective, what I'm referring to, this man has went on record and said he thinks Naruto is the greatest shonen manga. He pretty much said, farewell Naruto, you were my childhood, and thank you for the greatest shonen manga to Masashi Kishimoto. So he's definitely been very inspired by Naruto, and you definitely get that feel in it with certain aspects. Like with his original manga, the main character was an orphan and had, you know, a tragic past and was looking for a family and this and that. And with Boku no Hero Academia, the main character, while he's definitely a little bit different than the character from Barrage, ultimately this character a little bit wimpier, I would say, definitely not as brave, at least in the beginning anyway, as like the main character from Barrage. And ultimately the difference with this one is that it's more so based in comic books. It's definitely like, I feel as though this is Japan's take on comics, and similar to like a series like Tiger and Bunny, for example, where it has superheroes and like that type of vibe. Because the premise of this is basically the main character, Izuku, wants to become a superhero. The world is filled with different superheroes, and they have their own quirks, which basically are their powers, individuality, whatever you want to call it, and he hasn't developed any. He doesn't have his own particular quirk until eventually one day he meets this guy called All Might, which is pretty much like, I guess, a Superman type of character, and he helps him develop a quirk, or get a quirk for that matter, and little by little the story progresses. And while it does have similar elements from different manga that I've seen before, some of the characters kind of remind me of Blue Exorcist characters, there are a few events that kind of remind me of Naruto events. One of the things I like about this series is that it is keeping it fresh with kind of having a little bit of like comic book stuff, and again, it's very superhero based, and with everyone having their individual powers, which a lot of the powers look interesting and different, ultimately it goes into the school setting after a while. And I'm personally not a fan of school settings, but this manga is doing it in a much more creative way and a much more fresh way. I honestly would say one of the best ways to describe this manga thus far with the first 9 chapters is it's very fun. You have Izuku, the main character, kind of a little bit wimpy at the start. He wants to be a superhero. He's been inspired. He's a huge otaku for superhero stuff. Then you have his rival, Bakugo, which, tell me if you heard this story. When they were younger, it was kind of like he wanted to be his friend, and ultimately as time went on, he started getting bullied by him, and things went along the lines of that to the point where now he's kind of like his rival. One of the things about this character, Izuku, again, is that he doesn't really have an individuality or a quirk of his own, meaning he doesn't have like a power of his own. So ultimately, he kind of reminds me as well of like a Rock Lee character. There's a lot of things in this manga that definitely remind me of Naruto, and I'm not saying that it's rip-off or anything. You can definitely see the inspiration, and it's just really awesome. To be honest with you, one of the things that hooked me in this manga was the end of chapter 1. There's a scene with the main character and his mother, and definitely bringing home some of those feels, and it's kind of relatable in a sense of like, you know, when you're younger, you want to stand out. I think one of the things that metaphorically the series drives home is people want to be different, people want to stand out, people ultimately want to be their own person. And from what I've gathered thus far, like, even though it's taking it to the next level with literal terms of like, you know, they literally want to have a power, a superpower, ultimately just in everyday life, I think one of the things why it's resonating very well with Japan and just with people in general for that matter, why it's slowly building up an audience and popularity, is that people want to stand out, people want to be noticed, and I think that this manga, the way it's doing it, having it with superpowers, but also having sort of metaphorical tones to it, it's doing it very well. I mean, the first few chapters, you have build-up, you have the character training, trying to get into gear, trying to ultimately get into the school, and again, while I said I'm not the biggest fan of school settings, but ultimately when it goes into the school setting, it's trying to keep it fresh while still having some of the elements of like the main character and his rival going at it, and the main character trying to succeed. And one of the things I like about the main character, Izuku, is that while he starts off reminding me of like a Tsunayoshi Sawada from Hitman Reborn, very wimpy, ultimately, in the 9 chapters I've seen, he's already grown a bit. He's not the same wimpy little kid that he was in the first chapter. He's actually progressing, and that's something that I definitely like to see, character development in only 9 chapters. The character went from a little wimp to he built up the muscle. He's not obviously not brolic or anything like that. He's still a small kid or whatever, but he definitely built up the courage that he needed, and from chapter 1 to where we're at right now, he's already telling his rival, no, I used to cower in fear to you, but I ain't gonna do that anymore. And I really like seeing development in this character, again, in only a volume's time. Uraraka, one of his friends, a female student, definitely reminds me of like Shamey from Blue Exorcist, a nice girl, ultimately has an interesting power. I think it's something to do with like gravity or something. Sort of like a One Punch Man with the whole superhero aspect, except One Punch Man does its own thing with the comedy and kind of weird and awkward moments. And then you have like Tiger and Bunny that are superheroes, but this does it a little bit different because it's keeping the school elements involved, but at the same time giving you the shonen elements and giving you just this character that is progressing very quickly. From what I've gathered thus far with the main character and his rival, I could definitely see where it's going right now. I could possibly see, since it's going into the comic book direction, I could see this potentially being like his greatest villain, his greatest adversary. You know, like in comic books, like you have Batman and Joker, you have Superman and Lex Luthor and things like that. I think there's definitely going to be like, you know, his Magneto or something that he's going to have to try to stop. And again, that character as well has some interesting powers. Bakugo, he could like create explosions and things with the palm of his hand sweat. So there's a lot of interesting things, and to be honest with you, a lot of people have been asking me, and I'm going to make a full-on video about this, of different manga you can check out for people that, you know, they finished Naruto, they don't know what to check out next. This is definitely something that's very fun, it's reminiscent of it, and ultimately, it's very easy to get into, and there's not that many chapters. As of the recording of this video, there's 9. In Japan, I believe there's roughly 18 or so, and we're getting like a chapter every other day or so translated, so you can catch up very easily, and you can just have a good time because it just feels really fresh, the fact that they're bringing in, you know, US and Western culture with comic books, but at the same time giving you the anime spin on it. Now, as far as if I'm going to review this weekly, as of right now, I'm going to reserve my right to hold off on it. I'm going to wait till all the chapters are translated and we're caught up to the Japanese releases, and I'm also going to wait probably until this season of anime is over. That way my schedule clears up a little bit because a bunch of the shows that I review weekly are going to finish up, and then after that we'll see what happens, because right now, I ain't gonna lie, I'm having a blast. I think this is just such a fun manga. It's not the greatest, it's not like, you know, a 10 out of 10, but it is very good and very enjoyable and fresh, and that's one of the best ways to put it. And it just leaves so much room for different things as well. Like, this character and this manga can just go so many different directions. You can make it that at the end of the series he's Superman, you could turn him into a Batman. There's so many different ways that this could go towards the end of the series. I mean, there could be, you know, time skips. There's just vast, wide variety of things where it could go, and that's one of the things that keeps my interest right now. Now, as far as popularity goes, it is slowly building. I believe this was one of the biggest first volume sales since 2008. I think it was like the 4th biggest first week sales of any manga, for that matter, of Shonen Jump since 2008 as far as like newcomers go. So that's a good sign. A lot of people in the West are checking it out. Again, a lot of you hit me up. I had my eye on it since Barrage, and I was like, all right, it's time to check it out. So I don't know at this point with Shonen Jump what will become a hit, because you don't know. Tomorrow the rankings can drop and Shonen Jump will say, get the fuck out of here. So for now, I'm just going to say I think it has a lot of potential. It could get up there at some given point. I mean, with Naruto gone, there's a slot open for another Shonen battle series, and Bleach is on its way out as well. Maybe Shonen Jump will get behind this and actually promote it properly and get people into it and get it to, you know, where it deserves to be. Because to be honest with you, this manga is really fun, and it could go a long way. It reminds me a lot, and I keep saying it honestly, but the mangaka himself was inspired. It reminds me of like the beginning of Naruto, and that's definitely something awesome, but with superheroes. If you read Boku no Hero Academia, tell me what you think of it thus far. Do you like it? Do you enjoy it? Do you think it could potentially be huge? Again, This is my personal opinion on it. It could be Iron Knighted and Hungry Joker to borrow, or it could be the next Nanatsu no Taizai. And if you haven't read it, are you going to check it out yet? Superheroes mixed in with anime manga tropes and just a fresh start for a new series. So that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, if you could do so as well, that'd be awesome. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.